and this is my first Thy Geekdom, this is amazing, so I just want to thank you guys for being here, and being the amazing people that you are.
Well, thank you. We wouldn't be here if it weren't for you guys. You don't just invite us. Yeah, so thank you.
So my question, actually, can I ask two separate questions? Okay. Sure. No,
we will answer half of each question.
At all. But we'll talk.
Okay. So my first question is for Alexis, Michael, and Jamie. What was your experience working on Yorikuma Arashi? And a separate question for Jamie. Which between these two shows, as Shimonetta and Panty and Stocking, what was a funnier experience as an actor for either of those shows?
What was the first question?
We just needed a refresher.
So the first thing that jumped in my head for that show was back early simuldubs, and we were still having a lot of tours coming through the Funimation, because it was Funimation back then. But it was so funny because they had little whiteboards outside of all of the studios that would tell you what was recording in that studio. But that was back before they started killing us with these deadlines, and so we had a little bit more time. So there was time that there was time for NDAs. We had to hush about it for a few more days until it premiered. So because of the tours coming through, they didn't want anyone to know what we were working on prematurely, and so everyone was coming up with fake names for the shows we were working on to throw off the tours. And I remember for that one, Bevins wrote on our whiteboard, "When a bear loves a woman." So that's just what we called it. When a bear loves a woman. Yeah, it was great. But no, that show was really, really amazing. I'm a real big fan of really hyper stylized things, and so when I heard this show is being done by the guy who did Revolutionary Girl Utena, I was like, oh snap, sign me up, because that show is weird, and I'm still metabolizing it, and I love it. But yeah, I thought it was a beautiful show. I thought it was, there was some weirdness in it, but at the same time, I was also man, I really love this metaphor. And Christopher Bevins directed it, and I don't know if you got this, but he had a sit-down consultation with me before the show even started, talking to me about, okay, the show is a Yuri show, it's a girls' love show. There's some stuff in it that could be perceived as a little fan servicey, but overall, it's very respectful to this kind of story, and it talks a lot about discrimination and segregation, and there's a lot of really heavy topics in there, and they're all presented through metaphors. Some of them are much more overt than just a metaphor, and people are really cruel to each other because of really awful things, and so the reasons they're cruel are not awful. Their cruelty is awful, and these actually very beautiful things.
Nobody's ever sat me down to warn me about any show.
Well, no.
They're always just she'll do it.
No. He wasn't warning me. He wasn't warning me about the content. He was saying this show in a different director's hands may not. He basically wanted to say I really want to treat this with the respect it deserves because of the story that's being told, and that I'm really going to. I really want to take time with you hitting some of these nuances, because I don't want the people to take this story at face value because it's so much deeper than that. And so I was really, I thought that was really cool, that it was I want to treat this with the care and respect that it deserves, and I want this story to be told with the care and respect that it deserves. And so I thought that was really cool, and it felt like being a part of something really special because of that. So, and it's just a beautiful show too. So,
yeah. Because I'm only in it one line every 3 episodes, and it's always Shabba Dadu or whatever he says. I think Bevins just got me, and he's just say this stupid phrase. I want to hear you say this phrase. And I was like, oh yeah. So I literally had no context. Because Bevins knows me. He's I'm not going to tell you what it's about. Just do it.
I had this amazing artistic experience with him. Nuance. And he's just shove it in you, whatever.
You said the tour group thing. They came in when I had a whole tour come in, and they were all I think they were potential investors because they were all adults. And
during the suits era.
Yeah, and they came in, and they were just kind of this is an actor. He's and hearing Bevins describe the show to them, I was oh, what we're doing? And we were like already 6 episodes in. I was like, no idea. But yeah, and I just remember like, okay, I'm getting into character, and I would stand in a weird way when I would do his voice and do the line, because that's part of my process. It's part of my process. And I find stance, that's kind of a thing, especially if it's a line that like it's always said. I'm like, I gotta live it. So I'm doing this thing, and I took the stance, and all of them got their cameras out and were filming me do it. I'm like, well, that's a first. It's like paparazzi right there. And I'm like, shabba-da-do? I'm like, yay, and they clapped, and I'm like, thank you, my best work, thank you.
No one can shabba-do like you shabba-do. My experience was more what I remember is from the writing aspect, so I wrote the adaptation for it. And I remember the first 4 episodes, well, I have no idea what's going on. And at the time, it was fairly new that we only got 1 episode at a time. So we didn't know, with simuldubs, you don't know what the end is going to be. Now you might ask yourself, but don't the Japanese have full 12 episode scripts? Yes. Why we don't get them? I can't tell you the answer to that.
Still a problem.
But we don't. And so if a character is perhaps needing to be voiced by a male, we don't find out till the end. Whoops. Stuff like that happens. So in this, I wasn't really sure what was going on, but I did a lot of like outside research to get kind of an idea of where we were headed with it. And so by 4, I felt like I had a much better grasp on what was happening, and I moved forward from there, just really, letting the characters shine. But I remember that, like, what is this about? It's so goofy. I have no idea what it's about, though. It took about 4 episodes before it really settled in. But I was really excited that I got to play, a character that was more of a Monica voice. And Monica played a character that was more of a Jamie voice, and that was really fun. Yeah. We looked like our characters. Yeah, that was fun, too. And similarly, I also wrote, I was the lead writer for the adaptation of Panty and Stocking. So, you're welcome. I always hear people who are like, I was 12 when I watched that, and I'm like, you should not have been. And so, that one I'm a little closer to because, I knew the lines ahead of time. However, Shimonetta was a blast because it was kind of like a revisiting of some of those characters and like taking like the characters from High School DxD and mixing them up too, and like it was just a play on what other relationships I've had with those same actors playing different characters. So that was really, really fun. But I'll tell you the moment that killed me during recording was in Panty and Stocking. This was not written, but there's a scene where Brief is just screaming and running away from something. And it's Joel McDonald plays Brief, and he just screams, Helena Bonham Carter. And I was not expecting it. And I had to take a break. I was laughing so hard. It was just so weird. But that was probably the moment that I was like, this is ridiculous. But the process for both of them was really, really fun. Oh my God. If you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about.
Thank you. All right.